Thanks for tuning in to Men for the Win, a podcast hosted by David Kufis and Dan Thompson, with special guest appearances from Andrew Hoax Hoganson, three avid fans who appreciate well-played baseball, especially when it's done by the Minnesota Twins. Men for the Win is sponsored by the Grand Group with Edina Realty. Are you looking to purchase a new home in the Twin Cities area? Or perhaps you're trying to sell your current home? The Grand Group with Edina Realty will meet all of your housing needs. Contact the Grand Group by emailing thegran, G-R-A-N, group at edinarealty.com or call them by phone at 612-817-8751. Men for the Win is part of the Pull Tab Sports Network, covering sports, culture, and entertainment across the Midwest. Check them out at pulltabsports.com and give them a follow on all your social media platforms at Pull Tab Sports. On this episode, David and Dan recap the Twins' three-game series against the Pittsburgh Pirates. Thanks for listening. Enjoy. Thanks for tuning in to Men for the Win. My name is David Kufis. With me, as always, is Dan Thompson. The Twins head to beautiful Pittsburgh. The beautiful field, Dan, the river right outside the stadium. Opportunities to hit a ball into water, which just doesn't happen that often in Major League Baseball. And the Twins get swept. It's an ugly series on both sides of the ball, Dan. And I was led to believe that the Twins had 500 in their sights. They were simply Andrew Hoax was so confident here that the Twins were going to bounce back. He even pulled this line live, Dan. It wasn't even the sounder.
Have you no joy in your life? Is there no song in your heart?
Are you the optimist now that Hoax is gone, Dan?
Not after that series. That was terrible. They did not play well. Well, they played well enough in games 1 and 2 to win, obviously, but game 3 they were outclassed. Just too many gaps in this team right now. Now, that Pittsburgh team is a fun team that will probably be broken up in a year or two, right, as they do in Pittsburgh. Yes. But I don't know. Do you think Derek just thought maybe, can I just go to the other dugout and just kind of like, can we do a swapsies? I think that's what he might have wanted.
You know, like you said, the first couple of games were pretty interesting games. And if you were a Twins fan, they were fun games to watch because it never felt as though the Twins were necessarily out of it. Or at least it did, but then the Twins made it interesting, to say the least. But I do need to make a couple of notes here about this team, Dan. First of all, the big news, and this was, if you're on Twins X or Twins Twitter or whatever you want to call it, everybody was chiming in about this. SWR was designated for release or assignment. And so folks understand he was out of options. So the Twins have to keep him on the roster, and if they do decide to release him from the team, other teams have 48 hours, basically 2 business days, to claim him. If he goes unclaimed, the Twins get to retain control, and then he ends up at AAA. A lot of people online are very convinced that somebody's going to take a flyer on SWR because he has shown to have success at the major league level, but I just don't know. He's looked so terrible this season. But it does seem unlikely that somebody's not going to give him a chance, don't you think?
I think somebody picks him up he's 25, I believe. He's had success. I think somebody's going to say, hey, we can reclaim this guy. Starting pitching is prized. The Twins are prizing it right now, too. And so it was a little bit of a surprise at the same time. You look at him, and he doesn't have high-end speed. And that's if you're going to convert him to a bullpen guy, that's kind of what you need. And they must have... Obviously, the Twins who were evaluating these things just said, he's not a bullpen guy.
No, I think it does seem to be that he just couldn't make that transition. And if he has nothing more in the tank, like you said, that doesn't really work in the bullpen. And even as a length guy, the Twins have other options who have been more successful. Now, you had said last episode, you responded to Hoax and I talking about SWR sort of making a start unexpectedly because Rojas was scratched. I still don't think so, Dan. I think he should have been able to perform, and he should have seen that as a big moment. But you seem to think, no, he was all out of whack. He didn't get to follow his normal process, so we shouldn't hold that start against him. That was sort of unexpected.
I'm not superstitious, but I am a little stitious.
Starters are more than a little. They're superstitious, right? I mean, Everything has to be. He also did pitch a few days before, so you wouldn't make a starter come out after pitching to 3 days before or something like that. So I do think that hurt him
or something that he pitched.
But it does feel like kind of the fall guy thing. Like we're going to send you out there SWR one last time here in a situation that is less than ideal. Yeah, we wish him well, I guess. You know, if he doesn't get picked up, obviously we hope the Twins can keep him and reclaim him. And if somebody does pick him up, I hope it's a good fresh start for him. I was thinking of fresh starts too. But do you think Royce Lewis is seeking a fresh start right now? Do you think he wants to be traded?
I don't even have anything to say about Royce right now, Dan, because I don't know when we're gonna have to talk about him. I honestly, I didn't have him in the notes at
Sorry,
all.
I know.
You brought him up out of the blue.
Shoehorned him in here.
I thought we'd have a whole episode not talking about Royce.
Let's not fight about it now. We'll table it and we'll...
Look at that.
A new sound.
A new one for you. I wanted to surprise you. We watched Project Hail Mary last night.
Wonderful. Oh, I love. Oh my! Well, now we have to review that. Oh, speaking of movie reviews, folks, if you would like to hear Dan and I talk about something that's not Twins baseball, head on over to our Patreon. $1 a month gets you access to our second show, Picture of Record, where Dan and I do movie reviews. Just recently, we did Inception, which Dan and I actually disagree with more than I thought we would on the movie, Dan. But maybe now we'll have to do Project Hail Mary.
I would love to, but we are all over the place here, David. Let's go ahead and get into the series recap.
Series recap.
Game 1 here. Clemens gets the Twins on the board early with a solo shot to right, so Twins are up 1-0. Not the last time you're going to hear Clemens' name, let me tell you, for this series. But bottom of the first, Taj Bradley struggles, giving up 2 straight walks. Then Nick Gonzalez likely has an infield single to load the bases. But Brooks Lee, Dan, my goodness.
He's got a back problem.
He makes a very... He shouldn't have done it. He shouldn't have done it is really the moral of the story here. So he tries to make a play on the ball and throw to first. And where he threw the ball, Bell, I don't even think he realized that Brooks Lee threw the ball to him. Like, the ball was so far away from first base, Josh Bell just sort of watched it go. Like, there was no
I knew exactly
movement.
what to do, but in a much more real sense, I had no idea what to do.
But he's just trying to make a play. I mean, like Brooks Lee, he's played, 5 infield positions now, it feels like for the Twins. He's going to pitch pretty soon. Poor Brooks Lee is being asked to do everything for this team.
Okay, but he threw to first, and he threw to first by the time the runner was like at the umpire at that point, Dan. Like, it wasn't like going to be a close play. But anyway, so that allows the runners to advance and allows a run to score. Then O'Neill Cruz, the guy with 2 outs, the guy with 2 names, grounds out. But as the runners advance, he brings in another runner home on that ground out. So Pirates are up 2-1. Then phenom rookie Connor Griffin, who actually had to move to the IL, he singles to put the Pirates up 3-1 at the end of the first. Then top of the second, though, the Twins come right back here. Larnach singles. Martin and Caratini both walk to load the bases. Keishal K's, which just seems to be what Luke Keishal does when he comes up with the bases loaded, which is really disappointing. Then Tristan Gray hits a huge single to score Larnach and Martin, tie game 3-3. But then Buxton, of all people, Dan, grounds into a double play to end the inning. Very disappointing. Top of the third, though, Larnach comes in through again. He adds a solo shot to put the Twins up 5-3. Bradley's final line here. 4 innings pitched, 5 hits, 4 earned runs, 2 walks, 6 Ks. Season ERA is still in good shape, though, at 3.21. Now, bottom of the third, O'Neill Cruz hits a solo home run. That makes it a 1-run game, 5-4 Twins. Bottom of the 8th, so fast forward a whole bunch of innings where nothing interesting happens, Dan. The Twins get into trouble. O'Neill Cruz walks. Connor Griffin reaches on an error from Tristan Gray. So you got runners on first and third with no outs. Griffin steals second. So now it's runners on second and third, no out. Rodriguez K's. Infield comes in, Dan. Your favorite, infield in. Clemens fields a hit by Magnum, comes home, and he gets Cruz at home. And then Triola lines out to end the inning. So the Twins escape that jam. They're going into the bottom of the 9th, and you're thinking they got a chance. They got a 1-run lead. You got Taylor Rogers, who's sort of having a little bit of a resurgence, so he comes in for the save. After allowing a single, Reynolds hits a deep walk-off homer to left on a 2-2 count, Dan. I'm sorry. The pitch was okay. I honestly don't mind it. It was what it was. You were going to have to throw in the zone, but Pirates won this one 6-5, and I was pretty sad after this one. I was glad I watched this one after the kids went to bed, so I wasn't a bad dad after that, Dan.
Thank goodness, yes. Your parenting is quite influenced here, I think, by the Twins, as we've talked about.
Sadly.
Then there's game 2, very different game flow, a similar result. Pirates win this one 10-9. This is when the Twins actually never quite led, but they were down quite a bit early. But anyway, So Spencer Horwitz for the Pirates, one of their young players here, has an eventful first couple at bats. In the first inning, he homers, and then with the Pirates ahead 2-1 in the second, he hits a pop fly to left that Larnach cannot find in the sky. Oh. And I get that Sun Angle, they are what they are. It's just kind of a bad situation because then that miscue leads to an avalanche of 5 more runs for the Pirates. So it's 7-1 after 2 innings. Bailey Ober has to throw a lot more pitches there. Top of the third, though, Kody Clemens, who doubled and scored in the first inning, triples in Buxton, so it's 7-2. And then the top of the fourth, Tristan Gray hits a 2-run double to make it 7-4. Buxton walks. Bell doubles to score both Gray and Buxton. And then Clemens singles in a run. So very suddenly, it's 7-7 again. Bottom of the fifth, though, with Bailey Ober finishing up a rough outing. And we're going to come back to something that happened in the bottom of the fourth in this game a little bit later for the Pirates. Bailey Ober can't quite get through the fifth. The Pirates take an 8-7 lead with a 2-out single. He goes 4 2/3, allows a career-high 12 hits, plus 8 runs, 7 earned, 1 walk, 3 Ks. His ERA is at 4.59. And
where did all these unsupervised children come from?
He goes on the injured list after the game with, you said it last time, David, some kind of an elbow injury.
It's not good.
No,
it's not good. Anytime you hear pitchers and elbows, then it just seems like after every game, every time a Twins pitcher has a rough outing, you find out about this elbow soreness, Dan.
I don't believe that man's ever been to medical school.
We both did it. We'll get the echo effect there.
We're recording in stereo today, folks, just so you can hear it out of both ears. But let's go on here to Game 3. Twins lose.
Well, there's more to say, David. The game's not over.
I'm sorry. I
felt
over
around
Dan.
on mine.
You did. I'm sorry. I thought you were at the end. I'm so sorry, Dan. I apologize. And then the double sounders. It was a very confusing time for all of us.
Well, so in any case, bottom of the seventh, the Pirates cobble together a couple more runs. They steal 3 bases in 1 inning. We will talk about that. It's 10-7. Now at the top of the eighth, the Twins answer by loading the bases. They get an RBI walk from Lee, an RBI ground out from Bell. It's 10-9. The inning unfortunately ends with Clemens, who needed a home run here for the cycle, hitting a 100-mile-an-hour ground out to second. Huge bummer there. Top of the ninth, the Twins do get Caratini on, but they hit 3 baseballs really hard right at Pirates players, and so the game ends. And then now, David, you can talk about Game 3, the least competitive by far.
By far. And like not competitive early, and then even at the end it was like, what are we even doing here? Let's just go home. I was ready to record the show, Dan. I'm already depressed. Let's just get this one over with. But anyway, Twins do lose this one 9-3. Ugly baseball on both sides of the ball for the Twins. Zebby Matthews gives up 2 in the second, 2 in the third, and then finally gets sent to the showers after a brutal fifth. The Pirates go double, single, walk. And then the recently selected from the Saints, Mike Paredes, making his MLB debut, walks the first 2 batters he faced. 8 straight balls, Dan. It wasn't like he came in and they were close at bats and he was just dealing with nerves. Couldn't find the strike zone, which has to be just the absolute worst feeling for a guy making his MLB debut. But anyway, after those walks, a sac fly, then a catcher's interference call. You know, that common catcher's interference call.
Twice in the series, right? They have one of those?
Yeah. It's super disappointing. But when it's all said and done, the Pirates are up 9-0, and the inning finally comes to a close on a Horowitz flyout. And you have to think, if you're Paredes, you're just thinking, thank goodness it didn't get any worse than it was. But so he pitches quite well after the fifth, actually. 3 2/3 innings pitched, 2 hits, 1 earned run, 3 walks, 3 Ks. The 2 runs that came in on the fifth were credited to Matthews. Zebby's final line, not as generous. 4 1/3 innings pitched, 6 hits, 7 earned runs, 2 walks, 7 Ks, and 2 homers. Top of the sixth, though, Twins finally get on the board with a Brooks Lee 2-run homer. Twins are down 9-2 at this point. Then they get one more in the top of the ninth on another home run from Brooks Lee, which is very relevant to this podcast, Dan Thompson.
My back!
That's how this one ends here. 9-3 loss for your hometown team.
Well, if you're struggling with your own losses, I'm thinking of the loss of water in your body. We have a new hydration hero for you. It's Drip Drop. Now, dehydration can leave you irritable, give you brain fog, feeling low energy. But this hydration hero was invented by more than a decade ago by Dr. Dolan during life-saving humanitarian aid missions across the globe. He created Drip Drop for fast hydration where IVs weren't possible. It's a next-level breakthrough in hydration, and it's backed by 6 decades of ORS science designed for speed and taste to deliver the fastest possible hydration. It's a secret weapon that's used by more than 90% of professional sports teams, including the Vikings, the Wild, the Wolves, and the Twins, and even the U.S. military like Army Rangers and Navy SEALs. And there's a reason that they choose Drip Drop, because it's a superior product. Simply put, Drip Drop works faster and tastes better. So head to Amazon or dripdrop.com and order some Drip Drop. Mix it with water and experience for yourself the fastest way to hydrate.
Catch 'em all, Kirby Puckett! Puckett's Picks winner.
What a finish, Dan. Where's the what a drama, what a finish?
I got
Where's
you.
that?
Yeah, I know.
Thank you.
What drama, what a game, what a finish.
Love it, Dan Thompson. So Brooks Lee comes up huge with 2 home runs in this game, gives me the victory with 10. Dan had Clemens, who had 9, who struck out twice, thank goodness, in game 3. The listeners took Buxton, who struggled. He had -3, and Hogs took Larnick, who had 3. But thank goodness, Dan, for the hostility that Brooks Lee took out on that baseball to end the game today in the 9th.
Yeah, and you know what? Good for Brooks. Bad for me, though. On the season, I still have 7 points. The listeners have 7 points. You are now at 5.5 because you got the bonus point there for Lee as well. And Hogs is at 5. So we're all kind of hanging in there. Again, we're about a third of the way through the season. Lots of baseball to be played. We're going to talk more about those guys here in the next segment.
Beast versus Bench.
Is losing fun? Is losing fun?
I got to go with Lee, obviously, because he came through big for me. I do have to say he had a very costly error in game 1 that likely cost them the game. But it was a very good series at the plate, 3 for 8 with 4 RBI. I do think third base, there's still a few growing pains happening. And the error, I guess what I want to say about the error is, yeah, the throw was bad, but this was more of a mental error in that the throw shouldn't have happened to begin with. So if he's able to correct himself mentally about how he needs to play the position, I do think some of those mental errors because of physical execution will be removed. I think he could be a very good third baseman, Dan.
It's not your fault.
I just think he's been put in a poor position. The poor Brooks Lee keeps standing up. Speaking of actually playing,
and Hogs, that's all you want to do is talk about how it's not their fault. Like players, they're never held accountable for absolutely anything. I don't understand it. Sooner or later, they have to take accountability for their actions. I'm talking about how it was a mental error. You're trying to remove the error altogether. That's not the same thing, Dan.
Okay, well, hold on, if I may, for just a second.
My place is in the classroom.
So I'm gonna accountability. It's a long game here, David. Right? So as a teacher, yes, you want to hold people accountable, most certainly. But again, you have to take into account the circumstances. Anyway, I don't have to defend myself here. I'm gonna go with a guy who's also playing out of position here, Kody Clemens, playing center field here. Now, not only did he nearly have a cycle and will them back into the game, but the fact that he started in center all 3 of these games here. I know that, Derek's hands are kind of tied right now with Byron Buxton not being able to play in the field because of what is it, like a hip flux capacitor or something like that that's going wrong with him?
He did not look good. I forget.
I don't believe that man's ever been to medical school.
I think it's game 2 where he scored from first, right, on Tristan Gray's single. And you could tell when he slid into home, he fought the pain to score from first base on that hit. I think he doesn't look great. When he got up, it was very slow, Dan. And so I do hope that it's nothing that he's hurting worse by playing on it. You know, the old miracle speech, like, can he hurt it worse if he plays on it, that whole bit?
Really far from the heart, I think, is what
I do want.
The hip fluxer is very far from the heart. I think that's what
Good callback to a title there, Dan. But yeah, it was just one of those things where I just think that I hope he gets healthy before the All-Star break, really, Dan.
Who's on your bench?
Yeah, all the starters. I didn't know who to pick. You took the one guy who I think definitely deserves this, but I think you got to go with the starters here. None of these guys performed well. Bradley struggled. Ober had the worst start of his career. Well, if you take
pretty
away the
close
against the Royals, I guess. Yeah. And then today, obviously, was sort of a mess for Zebby. So I think I got to go with all the starters. I know it's a little bit of a cop out, but I think the true bench moniker has got to go to your guy here, Dan.
Yeah, I'm going with Austin Martin. He was 0 for 12 in the series. They did point out on the radio that he had one of the hard hit baseballs in the bottom of the 9th of game 2, or top of the 9th of game 2. So maybe the swing is getting better. But Austin Martin, when the team is good, Austin Martin seems to be leading the way, and he was not this time around.
No, totally. Let's keep pushing here. Derek's debrief, Dan.
You ever seen Buck with his pants down? No.
Derek's debrief.
I understand that Ryan Jeffers is on the IL. And I understand that Ryan Jeffers is a very good offensive catcher. He calls a pretty good game, and he's decent throwing guys out at second base. And right now, you got Alan Jackson, who's eating a snow cone and having a burger, Dan.
Alex
and then
Jackson.
You also
He's not the country western singer. Alan Jackson. Alex Jackson.
And then you got Victorini, who only part-time plays for the Twins, and he's full-time with the Mops. And so I understand that you're not working with the best here behind home plate, but my goodness, you have to figure out a way to stop the stolen bases, Dan. 7 stolen bases for the Pirates in this series. They caught none. I don't even know how many times they threw, but it didn't seem like they threw it 7 times, Dan. It was so ugly. I don't know what you're supposed to do. I understand your talent limited behind the plate, but maybe have guys shorten up their wind up. I don't know what's going on here, Dan, but it looks like the Pirates, they could have just sort of like skipped to second base and they would have gotten in just fine the way that the Twins were playing them.
I like your euphemism of talent limited behind the plate. But isn't okay? So one thing is that this is kind of a baseball-wide thing. Is that baseball wants to bring the stolen base around, but isn't this a little bit on the pitchers for not trying to hold the guys either?
Yes.
I mean, like, I don't know that this is all the catchers, right? I don't know. You could have Hercules behind the plate. I don't think he's going to throw it hard enough sometimes to get some of those guys.
I don't know that Hercules is going to be great at baseball.
He's good at the arrow shooting, right? Didn't he shoot the arrow through all of those little circles all the way?
Is that Hercules?
Nope, that's Odysseus. That's Odysseus.
I don't really follow all the mythology so much. I'm more of a New
the
Testament
metaphor.
guy
Oh my
myself,
gosh.
Ogres are like onions.
Anyway, fair point. So, okay, because Derek Shelton used to manage the Pirates, I'm going to call this judging Jordan, right? Jordan Baker, who's in his first year managing the Pirates here. Game 3, bottom of the 4th. So he got a lot of gesticulation and a lot of yelling into those umpires before he never got tossed. And I think the issue was that Brandon Lau, I believe I'm saying the low here, right here. He was up and he tried to challenge a pitch, but the umpire immediately pointed over to the Pirates dugout. And so then Lau wasn't able to challenge it. And we were talking off air. I think that this was because somebody in the Pirates dugout was trying to tell him to challenge, which is a major no-no, right? You cannot do that.
Well, okay, that's what I was going to ask. I haven't looked into the rules at all. What are the rules for what the dugout can say and can't say? Because you would think that the reason they have the time restriction, I think, is to prevent them from using digital technology to prove out whether it's going to be a strike or a ball or not. But you got to think that the dugout's chirping constantly, right? Like if you and I were sitting there watching this play happen and we knew the ball was low, one of us would likely say to the other, well, yeah, we'd either tap or we'd say, oh, that was low. You just say that naturally as you're watching the game. So you have to think there's got to be a little bit of leeway for what you can say from the dugout, unless somebody from the dugout, you can't like yell challenge.
Well, I think that's probably what it is, right? I mean, and quite honestly, because I think Lau was facing the Pirates dugout there, right? So he's a lefty. So I think, couldn't he just like look for the tap and then just do it? Like, you don't have to say anything if you're Jordan Baker or whomever. Anyway, Jordan Baker does not get ejected. Brandon Lau, though, after he's hit the ball, I think it was for an out, is ejected by the first base umpire, who was like standing up for the buddy, I think, in some way here. So I was a little surprised there just kind of by how that all shook out. I should say, I have the name wrong. It's not Jordan Baker. Jordan Baker is the umpire here, not the manager of the Pirates. I'm so sorry about that.
All good. I'm sure people followed what we were trying to say, Dan.
Don Kelly. I'm sorry, I got that right. Don Kelly. Because I can't find Jordan Baker's name in the game because they're not listed there because they didn't get.
Where are these notes here? Yes,
anyway, Don Kelly. What would that be? Don's debrief. That still works for the segment title.
No problem. Yes. All right, great. Well, speaking of segment titles, let's go on here to Minnesota Moment, Dan.
Minnesota Moment.
Game 1, bottom of the 9th here. I got to go with the walk-off home run by the Pirates here. I know it's not a Twins positive moment here, but Taylor Rogers on the mound, it was like a flashback to, 4 or 5 years ago when he was with the team. I don't remember the Twins being walked off very much this season. I'm sure it's probably happened once or twice, but that was a game, gosh, you thought that they were going to hold on and win after the bullpen had played so well. So it was just a super disappointing way to start the series.
Okay, so I just want to walk you through what happened to me. So I've been saving the game. I've been watching on delay. We had somewhere to be on Friday night, so I couldn't watch it live. So I'm planning to watch it on delay after I get the kids to bed. Well, Dan, of course, it's Apple TV. I didn't realize it was Apple TV.
Oh, here we go.
So I'm so frustrated. So then I go to MLB TV. I can't get to the game. It's like, oh, you got to wait 2 hours. Okay, well, I'm not going to start this game at 11 o'clock, whatever. So then I asked my wife. I say, hey, babe, can you put it on Apple? I said, I don't know if they block out the scores, though. So can you see if you can get to the game and then start it for me? And she does. She figures it out. It's great. Wonderful. Well, Dan, in my house, as listeners well know, we have 2 TVs in the living room, right? So we have the big TV and the small TV. And when my wife is awake or around, then the Twins game goes on the small TV, but then we can watch something together. She can watch one of her shows on the big TV, right? Because I am a loving husband who, of course, would not want to leave my wife out just so I could watch Twins baseball, especially not a very good Twins baseball team. But so I'm watching this game, and I'm thinking, okay, the Twins are going to win this. It's like the 6th inning, and on the big TV, whatever we were watching, I was going to change the channel. And Dan, we have 2 Rokus in our upstairs TV, and the remotes, Dan, are remarkably similar. Let me tell you, there's very little difference between these remotes. And
My portable earth thinking machine.
Did you just like record
the
that
last
whole
one.
movie? Okay, so I reached for the remote that I think is for the large TV, but it's for the small TV. I hit the back button, and of course the Twins score pops up 6-5 Pirates. I was in like the 7th inning, and so now I have to watch it, and now I keep watching, thinking, well, maybe I missaw the score because the Twins are still in the winning position, and then the 9th comes and Rogers comes in, and I know it's coming. I don't know when it's coming, but I know it's going to end poorly. It was a very sad.
So
day
you
for
still
me,
watched it? I don't watch it in those situations, right? When
I had to be. I was so upset by seeing the score. I'm like, I might as well get more upset and like see how it ended, right? But it was.
Oh my gosh!
I was very upset with myself. It's okay.
That makes it way worse then.
It was it was infinitely worse. Had they won the game, it would have been not as a big a deal. But because they lost it in the way they lost it, it was bad. But anyway. Okay, my Minnesota moment, Dan. Yeah,
yours.
It's got to be all the offensive production in Game 2. It was just super fun to see a game that you thought they were well and out of very early to come back and make it interesting. Super disappointing they couldn't finish that one out. But it is, I had a guy once tell me that this is a lineup that could score some runs.
Okay, yes, months ago I was touting this lineup, and sure enough, here we see the firepower that is available to this team. Even without a Wally Jenkins, even without a Gabby Gonzalez, yes, that's what's so maddening about this team is that they are scoring runs. They're scoring runs, but somebody else told us, no, this bullpen's going to be competitive. And I'm not talking about anybody in the show here, right? Like that life would find a way here. And I'm just like, hello, like, get a bullpen.
Get a bullpen. It's not that hard, Scott.
No, it's not that hard. We're saying our sounders here.
It's not that hard, Scott.
There.
Tell him, Wash. It's incredibly hard.
We don't even need the sounder board anymore. We can just recreate it. We can just.
I do it in my life out in the world, and nobody gets it, right? Like I'm just like saying our sounders, be like, oh man, I would have hit a sounder here if I had my. I'm thinking about carrying around a tablet with our soundboard on it, just hitting it. But I don't think people would find it as interesting as you and I.
We would find it interesting. Yeah, let's go forward.
Let's go here. Mauer's musings, Dan.
Don't know how it can get any better.
Mauer's musings.
Well, okay, we have some similar-ish questions. I'll just ask mine. What would make June a success for this franchise, do you think?
I think if you're still around 500, I don't even think you have to say for it to be a success, they have to be at or above 500. But I mean, if you're within 2 to 3 games of 500 at the end of June, I think I'd take that for sure. I just wonder though, Dan, come this trade deadline, I think everybody's gone. I do. I don't even think even if let's say they have a miraculous June and they win like they did in May last season and they win 15 straight or something crazy like that, right? And let's say they're 3 or 4 games above 500. There's no way the Pohlads make any moves at the deadline to make this team any better because there's so many pieces away from being a legitimate contender this season. So I think they're going to let guys go regardless. So I guess June, again, keep the baseball interesting, I think is what I would say would be successful. And this, Dan, I think this goes really well into my question. My question for you is this the beginning of the end? Because Hoag's last episode, like I said, he thought getting back to 500 was entirely possible, likely even. He may dispute the wording, but I think it's on the record pretty clearly that he was quite certain they'd make it back to 500. Now you're 6 games under, but you're only 2 back in the wild card, Dan. So I guess same question to you. What would make June a success? And do you think this team can get back to 500 this season?
They may be 6 games under, but they're not 6 feet under, David, if I may.
I'm not dead.
Right?
Terrible.
See what I did?
Terrible, man.
So
Yeah.
I think the issue, though, really is that, gosh, these pitching injuries are getting ridiculous. How do you possibly keep up when you've lost a handful of starters now, at least?
Yeah.
I just think at some point the depth is going to test them. What I want to see, actually, even more than them get to back to 500s, I want to see guys like Wally Jenkins get healthy and play. Like after watching this Pirates team, this franchise that has so many young guys who've been, coming up, like Connor Griffin is a great example. Where's the Twins Connor Griffin? Because that's Wally Jenkins, and I would like to see him play. So to answer my own question and kind of answer yours, 500 is going to be tricky, but it's a long season. They could still go on a run here. They're coming home now for a bit, which will be nice. I just want to see some of these prospects. And to your point about the sell, I think it's coming, and I think this team I think ownership has been emboldened by the positivity of the guys they got back, whether that's fair or not. I do. I agree with you. I think, and in some ways, I think if they're still hovering, 7 games under 500, we'll say, I think it's the right move, even if you're only 2 games back in the wild card, which is where they're at now.
Yeah, I just don't see a successful run for this team unless somehow you bring up all these young guys and they're all phenoms out of the gate. Now, I think the most likely person we're going to see is Kalen Culpepper, just because the way the shortstop position has sort of worked itself out. RC is still playing pretty well, though, so they're finding ways he played first base for like the 9th time in his career today. So they're finding ways, Dan, for him to get into the lineup. And I just think sooner or later, if you know you're not going to be successful long-term with this team this season, you got to start giving the young guys the opportunity to break out.
Yeah, I agree. All right, well, we need to grade this series here, David. Let's go ahead.
Series grades.
I'm going to give him a D-, Dan, but really only because the offense did so well in Game 2. But between Games 1 and 3, you were 1 for 7 with runners in scoring position. The pitching was abysmal. A few bright spots out of the bullpen. But I just think a bad series of baseball against a Pirates team that, sure, they're above 500, but they're still last in their division, Dan.
Yeah, I went 6s for the veterans and the youth and the bullpen. I thought those were they were not good enough. The mids, I gave them a 7 out of 10. The starters a 1, though. I mean, that's supposed to be a strength. I know that they're a little bit damaged, but Taj Bradley, you got to think he's going to come out and give him 6, maybe 7 or 8 innings. So mine ends up landing at a 26 out of 50, which is very much an F, David.
Very much so, Dan. All right. Well, if you are feeling like F my knee, Dan, let me tell you about a new sponsor we have. Tria Orthopedics is part of Health Partners, a nonprofit organization with a mission of improving health and well-being in partnership with its members, patients, and community. A leader in orthopedic, sports medicine, and physical therapy, Tria brings together exceptional clinical and surgical expertise with world-class research and innovative programs, including the Twin Cities' first orthopedic urgent care walk-in clinic and Tria Game Face, a premier sports performance offering. Tria's sports medicine specialists have served as official team physicians for Minnesota's professional sports teams for more than 30 years. With multiple locations across the Twin Cities and western Wisconsin, Tria provides convenient access to comprehensive care for patients of all ages and activity levels. For more information, visit tria.com.
I don't know, Jack. It looked like Herbeck pulled him off the bag.
Herbie's headlines.
All right, 2 quick notes, Dan, and then we'll sort of talk about the longer form thing that we're going to need to discuss a little bit. So, Blue Jays Sanchez plays right field, and he exits the game after a fan threw a ball at him, and he wasn't paying any attention. It hit him on the wrist, and there's, I guess, a bone bruise, no damage, I guess, hopefully, and hopefully no IL time. But so I read the headline, and I read the first paragraph, and I still couldn't figure out what happened here, Dan. I'm like, how on it, like a fan just chucked a ball at him? Like I thought, my first thought was home run ball, right? That the opposing team threw and it hit him on the wrist, like sort of accidentally, right? No, turns out it's like a 10-year-old kid who he thought Sanchez was like waving his glove, like to play, like between innings, every once in a while you see the video of a guy. That's what this kid thought was happening. Supposedly, we don't really know. But I guess he chucked the ball. Sanchez wasn't looking, and it hit him at how sometimes you just get hit on the right spot, and it's not good, Dan. But isn't that just crazy?
I feel bad for the 10-year-old there.
Yes.
I'm glad, like you said, I'm glad Sanchez is okay. The other note is there was an ABS error in the A's-Yankees game. So and the A's are right there in the wild card hunt. They're ahead of the Twins now. Soderstrom challenged a strike call. The call was confirmed, but then the A's, looking at the pitch in the dugout, saw that it was low and should have been overturned to a ball. Mark Kotze, the A's manager, he brings it up to the umps, but they wouldn't give him the challenge back. that would have been the fair thing. I don't know how. First of all, how did the system not work? Isn't it supposed to work perfectly?
So from what
99% of the time
is whoever was in the umps like headphones told him the call was confirmed, and so he just said call's confirmed, and it stays as a. It doesn't really matter. The Soderstrom ended up walking, but yeah, if they know they made a mistake and the call wasn't confirmed, it in fact should have been overturned. Yeah, the least they could do is to give them their challenge back, Dan.
Yeah, it's an easy fix. It's something worth fixing. Okay, then the big one. This is going to be a big conversation. We could use this for Herbie's headline basically the rest of the year. But the MLB salary cap is going to be the big sticking point during this collective bargaining that's kind of setting up whether there will be baseball in 27. How about you go ahead and talk through kind of what the owners proposed to the players union here after they got their proposal?
So they proposed both a cap and a floor. So the cap would be at $245.3 million, which I think there's only 4 teams who are above that right now. It's the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Phillies, and I always forget who the fourth one is.
Maybe the Mets?
The Mets. Yeah, excuse me. Yeah. And then $171.2 million floor. It's like there's like 8 or 9 teams who are under that right now. So the Twins are in good company, I guess, and that good company, probably bad.
They're in company. Yeah, something. Yeah.
It doesn't help right now that so many teams that have low payrolls are performing pretty well. And so the owners are like, see, there's no problem with low payrolls. But so that's where they're at right now. There would also be a 50-50 revenue split with local TV money to help with that payroll gap. And right now, they pointed this out, $446 million difference between the Dodgers and the Marlins. And so if you're looking at that, Dan, yeah, there's a huge disparity there. The Marlins, I don't know how bad they are this season. They're not terrible, I don't think. But so I guess the question becomes, Dan, do you like both the floor and the cap, or would you prefer to just not do any of this? So let's try and keep it short because, we'll probably have a whole episode on this once more details start coming out.
I think a floor and a cap is the way that there might be some compromise, because I think the players like a floor because then it would increase payrolls, right? I mean, players are making more money, I would think. So generally, yes, but they're so far apart on the numbers here. I hope that they can see how successful baseball has been from a rating standpoint the last couple of years. They can't make the same mistake they made 32 years ago and let this lead to the loss of a whole season.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be the whole season. I really don't, because I don't think players want to go that long without a paycheck. But I do think starting at our normal time here, Dan, with February being when pitchers and catchers report, it just seems unlikely, which is a little bit of a bummer.
All right, well, let's move forward here. We got to make picks for another White Sox series, this one at Target Field.
And we'll see you tomorrow. Puckett's Picks.
You know, the listeners are going to stick with Buxton. I thought they might switch to Lee, but since Lee is going to be on the table, Hogs is going to take Lee, and then it goes to you, Dan.
I don't like my options. You know what? There was that hard-hit baseball that Austin Martin had in Game 2, so I'm going to hope that Austin Martin bounces back here, and I'm going to take him.
I thought you'd stick with Clemens.
I thought I might.
Sure.
But you know what? This going rogue has kind of worked out for me. It almost worked again this series, picking Clemens.
Okay, well, I'm going to go Larnach then, Dan. I think that seems like the wise pick.
You're not even going to take Clemens.
What? I didn't say I thought I would take Clemens. I said I thought you would take Clemens, yeah.
Oh, man. Here, we have a sounder for that.
I can't compete with you physically, and you're no match for my brains.
All right.
Real quick note, too. We should mention our Minnesota guy, John Klein, got called up, pitched a little bit, and then got sent right back down for Travis Adams.
Poor guy here. All right. Well, I think with that, David, I will go ahead and send us out here. Folks, if you like what you hear, please tell a friend. You can follow us on X at Min for the Win and find our Min for the Win Facebook and Instagram pages. Make sure you're subscribed to the podcast on your favorite platform so you're notified when new episodes are available. And if you could leave us a rating or a like, we'd greatly appreciate it. If you'd like to support the show further, you can find us on Patreon. The link is in the description. Thank you for listening. And as always, go Twins.
That'll wrap up another episode of Men for the Win, a podcast hosted by David Kufis and Dan Thompson, with special guest appearances from Andrew Hogs Hoganson, 3 avid fans who appreciate well-played baseball, especially when it's done by the Minnesota Twins. Thanks so much for listening, and as always, go Twins!